Our Forgotten Past, a response to Democracy Now!'s interview with Juma Zapaya, the star of Yanuni, a film that follows Juma Zapaya, the Brazilian indigenous leader, in her fight for the Amazon. This interview was done back in January 13th of this year. As usual, I'll have some interesting comments to make. Um, let's begin by listening to Juma describe her life, her situation.
Decided to dedicate your life to saving the Amazon and the lands of your people? Hum, Eu sou do povo Chipaya I am from the Shipaya people, and in my childhood, I used to listen to that my people didn't exist, that they were extincted already, but they did exist. All my people existed, and we were in our territory. Tinha que lutar pela demarcação desse. So we needed to fight to demarcate our territory, and there were a lot of invaders and loggers and fishers saying that that was their land. Continuava and I kept listening that my people didn't exist. Perguntavam como a gente não existe. And how we don't exist? We're here. E nossas memórias. Our memories are here. Passados. Our ancestors are here. Entendeu? So he understood that it was a fight not only to defend the forest and demarcate the territory. It was a fight for our existence. E eu aprendi isso. And I learned that. Costumo falar que desde o ventre da minha. I usually say since I was in my mom's womb, this fight, not only in the Amazon, but in entire Brazil and world, was de milhares de séculos, muitos anos, desde a época da invasão. Since the invasion of Brazil. So, o que tá what's at stake right now, it's not only our territories and the minerals and the natural resources, but mainly our existence. So, for many centuries, he wasn't just denied our existence as Shipaya, but many other peoples. Alimentação saudável. Because he used to have clean water, clean food, and we were defending that. And when you see big projects, os invasores, from invaders, from small invaders, but great projects, nos vê como that see us as a problem because we are defending the forest. We defend with our own lives every day because we believe in the importance that it has, not only as food source and clean water, but also all the beings that have the right to exist there. So I learned that since I was a child because it wasn't my grandmother used to do. It was her mother used to do and her grandmother used to do. So all these generations before me, I only exist as a woman, indigenous woman, and Shipaya and the territory Shipaya because my ancestors fight for that. No nosso bem viver e mantendo vivo ainda as nossas. And kept our knowledge alive so I could be living today, so I could live today. So I learned from the very beginning it was an option. Era defender. To defend. Não somente para mim. Not only for me. Isso que os meus antepassados fizeram. So I would do exactly what my ancestor did for the next generations, which is to keep our forest standing and our people and our science and our culture and spirituality.
I suppose it's very serious. Um, so it is. Um, the native people, are struggling to preserve their identity and their land, their culture. But now we are in the we are making the mistake of believing that native people are there, and what are we? We, the civilized Northerners, mostly Europeans, Chinese, Indians, Middle Easterners, we also were natives once. It's something not taught in our schools. What were European natives like? How did they live? I don't believe a word written about them in anthropology magazines, journals, uh, anything written by historians, claims made about the Druids in Europe. Not at all. I mean, let's just, for a moment, look at the image I used for my thumbnail. Um, it's it's typical of the nonsense we are fed. We got two druids strolling through a forest, apparently collecting oak leaves, oak branches. Really? Is that on a seashore too? Is that what we did instead of collecting edibles? Maybe? They say Europe was once covered with oak and chestnut trees. North America very much the same. Yeah, and there's a lot of nutrition in nuts. Um, and I'm sure fruits during the summer, plenty of those, and perhaps some hunting. Why did our ancestors decide to leave the tropics and live in harsher conditions? That I can only speculate. It's not a choice I would have made, but here we are, believing or not believing rather than actually assuming unconsciously that we were never natives and that our ancestors voluntarily abandoned native ways. I mean, is that realistic? I I don't think so. People don't abandon their traditions very easily. What happened? Well, perhaps that the answer to that lies in my other videos and my books. Um, but for today, I want to address some of Juma Zipaya's concerns and some concerns I have about her. I mean, she's concerned about, among other things, pollution, unclean water, toxic food. Well, that's also our concern, perhaps much more so. North American cities, South American cities probably too, have their water fluoridated, chlorinated, probably both. Most of them in Canada still. America, not so much in Mexico, probably not so much in smaller cities in Central America, but yes, we have that concern too. And who's fighting for us? Who's going to Brazil and producing document or um, Who's making documentaries about life in our cities, the world cities, and going to the Amazonian people and saying, "Hey, can we have some help? Can we have some clean water? Can we have some non-toxic food?" North America probably being the region with the most toxic food on this planet. Well, should feel lucky to be elsewhere. I feel lucky to be here. Lots of local food in southern Mexico. Quite good for a raw food, raw vegan like myself. But that option is not available to many people. Uh, who's fighting for them? And this land issue, Juma is fighting for the entire Amazon, or at least her tribal land. Well, try living like the rest of us, fighting to pay your rent, or if you're lucky, fighting to pay for a postage stamp sized piece of land. We lost our land long ago. So long ago, we've forgotten about it and think the real estate market is normal. Real estate is normal. Private property is normal. Not being able to trust and share others with others is normal. If anyone needs help, seems like, well, we at least need as much. Um, I do have some concerns about Juma too. She does sound genuine. Um, Her delivery was a little monotonous, maybe not as passionate as it should have been. There was no smile until there was a mention of her newborn child. Thankfully, that is something that brings her pleasure. But, she's a chief, and I wonder how genuine her identity is. I suppose it was lost. I wish, well, it's quite evidently lost. Um, she she's wearing Western makeup in addition to native paint. Her nails are painted, carefully sharpened, the way women like to have them. Some women, extra long. Not sure that's Amazonian tradition. She has tattoos. She seems to have plucked her eyebrows. Um, there we go. There are tattoos on this arm. Um, how indigenous is she still? And really, I also wonder about this almost worldwide native habit of wearing animal feathers, horns, and animal skins. Is that really or authentic native, or was that practice given to them by the world culture corruptors? I mean, honestly, shouldn't we just be humans and not um, dress up like birds, peacocks, sitting bulls? Are we not dehumanizing ourselves a little when we wear horns and feathers on our heads? I know there are some explanations for this, but they don't make sense to me. They're not rational. You don't acquire any spiritual power from wearing a feather headdress, as Juma claims she does. You know, she's bringing the strength of the Amazon with her, she claimed, to protect her. And she said it's a symbol, but later said, no, it's actually, a conduit of some Amazonian power. Okay, is that commensurate and in harmony with this culture of mm, decorating your fingernails, plucking your eyebrows, I suspect, and so on. Um, Maybe more serious concern is the fact that she has worked for the Brazilian government in the Ministry of Indigenous People. Do you honestly think you can accomplish something inside a government? I have also worked for a government ministry. Nothing, nothing good really can come from that. She also attended or attends medical school, or she's studying medicine at a university and insists that all her people should have access to education and, alas, health care. I mean, you've strayed very far from your traditions if you honestly believe and trust Western medicine, governments, and the media machine that has made you a star for the moment. Um, Really, personally, you know, I think the time is coming when we should not, when they should not come north asking for help and attention, but we Northerners should come south to live in the south, in the tropics, before the shit really hits the fan. Things don't need to get worse, in my opinion, but they will. Everyone being dependent on people they don't know to provide them with what they need to survive, not to die. Electricity, heating, water, food. It's a precarious and rather dangerous situation to put yourself in, to be civilized. And maybe that will happen one day. I wouldn't mind giving living in a tropical forest a good attempt. I think I would like it. I did explore Jamaica and Belize once, not so long ago, looking for the right people. Um, didn't quite work. I've seen I've seen wonderful work done with tropical forest, especially one in Jamaica by a good friend. And well, that raises the other question of what does um, what's the lovely lady's name? What does she know about living in a jungle? I suppose not much. I suppose she might not be to blame for that, but um, the apparently the documentary and certainly the interview didn't share any highlights of how she or her tribe live in the Amazon. The Amazon is not just a big hotel waiting for people to move in. It needs work to make it habitable for humans. Um, Unless you really want to live like uh, hunters and gatherers, perhaps not the best, most enjoyable way to live. No, it's probably a better idea to garden the forests, to manage them, to encourage food bearing or trees that bear foods that humans can eat. And I suppose there is evidence that that was done in the past. But I didn't see any evidence that she or her people are doing that. A bit of permaculture, if I may refer to a non-indigenous word that probably resembles indigenous practices of the past. In any case, it's a top. This topic is very important to me. It's how I see our past. I mean, and it reminds me of what I would like the future to be and what I think it has to be if we're not going to waste our time protesting and hoping for revolutions, if we're going to move on, abandon the system that doesn't work for us, is controlled by insane people, created by insane people, then yes, we will have to walk away and find a new way to live. Will be painful for those who are addicted to the conveniences and so-called pleasures offered to them by civilization. But I see much better things coming in a world just waiting to be created, recreated perhaps, but I think we can do better even than our ancestors, Amazonian tribes people. Well, I won't belabor the point. Let that suffice for today. I hope it's short and sweet. Oh, lest I forget again, as I usually do, I have one more share. Of course, sometimes I forget about myself and my little struggles at home. Um, oh dear. Well, if you want to reach me, you may reach me at Prophet of Fiction at proton.me and inquire about my books. I will soon do some readings to help promote them.